Happy New Year. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. I'm Chamberlain. So, now, the year 2018 is one many will not forget for a long time. Several people were killed, and clearly something needed to be done. Then came the anti-open grazing law in Benue, one of the states that was severely affected. It was meant to be a solution, but here's how it turned out.
The move that gave many hope. Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State, signing the anti-grazing bill in 2017, was seen as the antidote to purge the state of the poison of violent clashes between herdsmen and farmers. The governor had the backing of the State House of Assembly, so everything appeared to be in the favor of bringing the crisis to an end. There was also the inauguration of 600 livestock guards to enforce the law. The arrest of herdsmen found flouting showed the enthusiasm. So why do all these actions taken by the governor appear not to have yielded the desired result? Because hundreds more were killed, homes burnt, and farmlands destroyed by groups suspected to be herdsmen. 2018 has brought with it another turbulent bout for Governor Ortom, who has to grapple with more deaths. Residents have fled for their lives to neighboring Nasarawa State, whose resources can only be stretched to a point. Protesters have hit the streets again, calling for a tougher stance from the #1 citizen before all control is lost.
I'm very surprised that Inspector General of Nigeria is saying that this is a communal clash. Who are we communing with? Who are we fighting with? Nobody fought with them.
Is it too much for us to ask that when we go to sleep, we should sleep with our eyes closed?
No.
Is it too much for us to ask as a peaceful people that when we go about our businesses, when we go about our farming activities, we should do it without any fear?
No.
Is it too much for us to sit and hope for the best?
The governor is having another go at maintaining control with a call to arrest the leadership of the Miyetti Allah over insightful statements.
The leadership of Miyetti Allah, Cotton Hori, in particular the secretary and the president of this association, that came out, they are on tape, they were in the papers, and issued this threat and said they were going to do it. They cannot go scot-free. They must be arrested.
The defiance of the herdsmen to the law raises eyebrows to questions whispered in corridors. Questions of sponsors of the attackers, questions of action or inaction by the security agencies to contain the menace. While the country ponders on answers, the people living in fear of being wiped out. From above, it all looks peaceful. And for a moment, the thought of people sharing the resource called land in harmony is beautiful. Orelu Ashonibare, Channels Television News.
Since this livestock guard came in,
yes,
how would you say it's been, especially with the implementation of this law?
Yeah.
In the face of a threat from the cattle herders that they're going to resist the law?
I think so far they have fared well. Across the states, since this law has been enforced, we've had about 17 arrests, some prosecuted by the courts already, and already in the Makurdi jail. They have been very effective. I think, especially in terms of information gathering and information dissemination, even to the security agencies, they have been very, very effective. I think at this point in time, what we are going to need to do is also to help them with more training, help them with more logistical support. So that, because 95% of this entire thing is intelligence gathering. You need to know where these people are. You need to know where they want to move. We have certain security reports so far. Some have been gotten through the civilian, the livestock guards, and some through the military. But, you know, there are security issues. It's not everything I can begin to mention here.
Governor Samuel Ortom, to me personally, I consider him to be a gentleman who wants to solve this problem once and for all. He invited us when he was going to implement that law, but even that time, we told him that implementing it immediately is a problem because this is changing a way of life of a people who are not educated, who are not skilled, who are not trained. It has to be gradual. We have to give it time so that even the Benue community, the law to the Benue community is new. To the pastoralists is also new. It's a new thing. So we have to give it time.
From 2012, 2013, 2014, no single person was arrested and prosecuted for these attacks that were taking place in Benue State. So something needed to be done. And the people of Benue State agreed that there was need for a law to come into place that would prevent open grazing, which was why the governor of Benue State originated a bill to the State House of Assembly to ensure that a law comes into place that prohibits open grazing. That's why we're here. And every process of lawmaking was followed. A stakeholders meeting was called. Public hearing were called. Every stakeholder in Benue State participated in that public hearing. And it was agreed, which was why the law was signed sometime in May, June. And a moratorium of 6 months was given to herders who had for them to take advantage of that moratorium time frame to be able to request for land from communities for their cattle to be ranched. And they agreed. Few weeks after that law was signed, the Pt. Allah Kautehore came in publicly and said that they were not going to follow the law.
The governor of Benue State wants you arrested for atrocities he says he has evidence that you carried out, you and your members, in Benue State. How do you view that statement?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I want to state clearly, before then, let me first and foremost condole the people of Benue State and indeed condemn the killings that have been going on, particularly within the Benue border communities, and restate our organization condemnation of these killings and state categorically clear that in no way, in no manner have we aided or abetted these killings. What we have done when His Excellency Governor Otom signed that law into bill, we came out and said, look, this law is going to generate crisis. Our crime is to oppose the law, and we have taken legal steps, gone to court to say, look, this law will not endanger peace in the Benue Valley. That is our only crime. But we are challenging His Excellency Governor Otom to bring out the evidences he has against us. It's not to come to media and say he has evidences. Look, we have never threatened Benue people. We have never threatened. We are a peace-loving organization, and it's there on record. We have been partnering with the security agencies to promote peace. We are an advocacy organization.
You know, it was
believed.
I
want to state clearly that this allegation is not only false.
It was believed.
It's a propaganda by the governor. Because we are challenging his law before the courts. And his anger is, why should we challenge the law? We are challenging it because it's against the livelihood. It's against the livelihood of the pastoralists. And it's not well thought out. That's our position.
If you say the law was not well thought out, what part of the law do you have grievances with?
The entirety of the law. Because one, you cannot wake up overnight and say you want to create ranches by fiat. Ranches are creation of technology and scientific studies. And you are treating these pastoral as if they are not indigenous to Nigeria. In 2014, precisely March, we were part of a security committee that visited Benue at the peak of the crisis. The security committee then was constituted by the Inspector General of Police under the leadership of the then DIG, Mike Zokumo, and the current Inspector General of Police was a member of that committee. The current DIG operation, Joseph Kabila, was a part of that peace committee. We met in Benue for 4 days. We sat down, looked at the crisis, and came out with a resolution. And that resolution was signed on behalf of the Benue State government by retired John Atankwera. The resolutions are there. What we are saying is that when His Excellency Governor Otom wanted to create this apartheid law to chase out the pastoralists from Benue Valley, who did he consult? We were not invited. We stated we were not invited. Our people were not involved. And these laws, our people are not aware of it. So that is our crime. When we say, look, You cannot legislate against the livelihood of a people without involving them. So in no way we have called for any violence. We're a peace-loving organization. I still state that.
Because I'm not really following you up on your submission so far, because there are concerns that if you say that if you fault that law completely, then how then do you expect that if you don't dialogue with the government, and then there will be peace? Because it does seem to suggest that at the moment, your men have felt really aggrieved by this law and taking laws into their hands and killing people.
You see, we have written to the government of Benue State, we have written to all the relevant security agencies, telling them why we are opposed to this law. But what His Excellency Governor Utom did was to dismiss our organization, claiming we don't have members in Benue. We are sitting in Abuja, we are politicians, because we dare told him, look, you can't go by that way. The reality is that you cannot prescribe pastoralism overnight. It's going to be a process that have to encompass policies and programs that will take a period of time.
So what is it that you want at this point in time?
Yes, we want a national policy that will address the challenges that are facing the pastoralists in Nigeria. You see, the Benue case is not an isolated case. We are talking of conflict. For the past 15 years now, since the return of democratic rule, the pastoralists in this country have been subjected to persecution and ethnic profiling, especially by media organizations and organizations that are championing ethnic irredentism. Today, we have cases where pastoralists have been killed over this country. Not even an action is taken. We have sedentary pastoralists that are on Mambila Plateau who own ranches that have certificate of occupancy. They were massacred in their hundreds. Their cattle destroyed. Up to date, there are refugees in Cameroon. Nobody was done about it. We are witness to massive killings of pastoralists, women and children in Numan. No action was taken against it. Look, we have to be holistically addressing these problems that are facing the pastoralist farmers conflict that are in this country. We are in this country. We have seen how over 100 security...
Now,
yes.
you said for the past 15 years, the herdsmen, your people have been killed, have been attacked. So is this like a reprisal attack? What's going on now?
No, what we are saying is that there is total breakdown of rural security because you have bandits, criminal elements all over. You have state governors, politicians that have armed militia groups.
Have you met some of these bandits and rural elements? Have you met them?
No, we have no relationship with them. What we are saying is from the securities. The onus lies on the securities to fish out these criminal elements, not to, at every time they are adopting reactionary measures. What we are saying is that, look, the pastoralist question in Nigeria has to be addressed.
What we've discovered is that these people, when they want to come and attack, they do not come with their kettles. They come, I think it's the planned thing, and so when they are coming, they do not come with their kettles. And they do that quietly and withdraw. And some of the places, like I said, are a bit distant. They are distant from other locations, and you need now to plant security around the area, even around the farms, and also work with the community to be able to know exactly which areas have been put under threat, and if people are sighted at some point, making preparation to come and attack. And so it's a community-based thing that we're still doing, and that is exactly what is happening.
Okay, have you been able to interface with the governor? Because in one of the statements he gave, he said that these people gather in certain towns and then they come into Benue to attack, and they pass through these checkpoints and they are not stopped. So have you been able to interface with the governor to give him an update about what you found and what you're going to do to stop this?
Yes, on a very regular basis, I have. Since arrival, the governor have been able to receive me well, and I've been open up and sharing information also. But I'll let you know that if there's anyone that is armed and is seen moving either in a vehicle or on foot, without any reasonable cause. I don't think the police will be so stupid to allow such people to pass. But what I know is the community must let us know if there are people gathering in a situation that cannot be clearly defined. We are ready to confront those people and to know their mission. But I can tell you that those who come to attack do that swiftly and in areas that are disadvantaged. And so the community must be able to know who are the strangers in their midst, and they should create community policing themselves to be able to also make a call to us even when we're at a distance. We should be able to run after them because we have the helicopter and we have patrol vehicles, and we can also endure also getting on foot. Okay, so to be able to run these people up.
You say you meet with the governor on a regular basis. Has he told you that some of these people are known? Because he said that himself, that they are known, and that sometimes the security operatives just let them go by because they know them.
No, well, that is not to my knowledge. But like I said, the governor also is very, very anxious to ensure that security is restored. And so he could say some other things also. But for me, if there's anyone that have been unmasked and information and intelligence are given, I assure you and I promise you that we'll go after them.
This problem is a national problem, and it requires a national solution. Because you have a set of farmers that migrate from one state to the other, so they cross state boundaries. So anytime you have a particular issue that moves from state to state, it is no longer a state issue, it's a national issue. So the solution will lie at the national level. And besides the state, the way we are structured in Nigeria, the states don't have the capacity to deal with these kind of problems. They cannot curb that problem because they don't have the capacity to enforce those legislations that they're bringing out. And I have always said this, we have this, Nigerians have this idea that their governors are the chief security officer of their own states. They are not. There's only one chief security officer in Nigeria, and that is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because all the security apparatus in every state report directly to Abuja. They don't take orders from the governor. The only thing the governor can do is to make a recommendation to them, which they're not bound to accept. So if you have a situation where the recommendation of the governor is in conflict with that of the president, they will take orders from the president. The security apparatus don't report to the governor. And the governor, no matter what law that he churns out from his state assembly, is not enforceable unless that law, the federal government agrees with it. How? The solution lies in our federal government. This is a very, very complicated problem, but we are trying to apply a very simplified solution to it. We have to look at our laws. We have to be able to agree to expend some resources to solve this problem. I just listened to, and there's a lot of sentiments and politics, being thrown around. I just listened to the person who was speaking, who said that there are people that own private airline companies that the federal government did not fund them. Look, this is a different situation. I have never seen any country in the world where the federal government of that country hands off agriculture. If you hands off agriculture, because food is a part of national security, if you hands off food, first of all, the cost of food is going to skyrocket. Second of all, you have disadvantage of farmers from day one. They will not be able to compete abroad because the other countries are subsidizing the cost of production for their own farmers. So our federal government has to, as a matter of national security, subsidize agricultural produce.
All one can do is to make a strong appeal to the president that the president, Muhammad Buhari, should stop pretending. He should rise up to what we thought he was, that is, a commander-in-chief. First of all, there's a failure both at the policy and operational level. First, at the policy level, I would have thought that the National Security Advisor would have advised the president that you cannot use police action against sophisticated armed invaders of one's community. Two, there are double standards we see here, evidently. Today, the guy, the cultist guy in Rivers has been killed by the military because the military were sent in. Why would President Buhari send police to Benue? Why not the military? When it was the case of militants, soldiers were sent in. When it was the case of IPOP, soldiers were sent in. In the case of armed, sophisticatedly armed invaders, many, as said by a program by the governor of Kano State, are foreigners. You send police. That is pure double standard. Two, the other double standard is this. You have a case of an invasion, an assault, a violent assault in a community, and the IG reduces it to two fighting. That is, he said it's a communal crisis. That is the worst. So at the policy level, both from the president and from the IG, the wrong signals were sent. The president should immediately send soldiers to protect the lives of people in Adabawa, the Bachamas, the T people, the Idoma people, people being amassed, people just by the border, to attack the areas in Agatu. So the president cannot stop pretending. The President Buhari has to rise up to the occasion. I say this, I'm not saying it in the person of Buhari, but as a commander-in-chief and as a citizen of Nigeria and as an ex-soldier, I think the mode of operandi to tackle the crisis is wrong.
My farm is at 27 kilometers away from Kaduna-Abuja Express Road. We have more than 287 farming families between Kaduna, Maru, Sarkin Power, up to the border between we and Niger State here. Though there are no longer farming activities in those areas here because of the activities of the herdsmen crisis, who weighs in AK-47 here. It is a well-known report that AK-47 in Nigeria is 74,000 naira, 75,000 naira in the black market. It got to a point that passing Kaduna Abuja Express Road here was something near impossible. That at every kilometer, the Inspector General of Police had to mount a police checking point here. That even a colonel, diplomats were kidnapped in those roads here. Farmers could not go to their farm and come back. We lost over 400 farmers between the southern part of Kaduna, Briningwari. We have one of the places where we have the best grains. The yellow maize coming in from Briningwari, Alawa, Koriga. Farmers no longer. Buruku, there are no single farmers in those areas here. Gimbia, do you know what has happened to us? By next year, 2019, we will have no seedlings of yam to bring back the 64 million metric tons of yam required in this country. Benue State, on the 1st of January, lost 43 metric tons, 1,000 metric tons of yam seedlings to the crisis that took place in 1st of January. So, yam seedlings, we're not going to have them anymore. So when we talk about irreplaceable loss, we'll now talk about the losses that are not, the ones that are not going to be replaced here. It takes you an average of 2 years to get a proper rice, yam seedlings. So this is a crisis in our hand.
I appeal to the whole country, let us be calm. Let all the tempers calm down. What happened in Benue is a terrible tragedy. My heart bleeds. It is painful. But please, before we carry our guns and start hunting Fulanis, let's give peace a chance. Let us calm down. Let us also prayerfully reflect and understand that we are all human beings. We are all Nigerians.
Very well said, Dr. Maylaifa. In fact, we need to remember that always. But unfortunately, also, in 2018, the cruel hands of death snatched Shadrach Madleon, one of our favorite guests here. May his soul rest in peace, and may God grant his family the fortitude to bear the loss. It's the president's letter. I meant former President Obasanjo. You'd have thought that all was well between the former president and the current president. After all, Obasanjo supported him in 2015. Then came this letter, a similar 18-page letter from former President Obasanjo to President Buhari. He spoke about a number of issues: the herdsmen, farmers' killings, nepotism, the president's health. And he ended up asking the president not to seek re-election. You know, he didn't subscribe to the APC or endorse the PDP. He wanted a coalition. Of course, there was a response to it all.
Right now, to look at what has now been described as a bomb letter is Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu, who is a former minority leader, House of Representatives, and also a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress. But just before we sink our teeth into the content of that letter, let's look at this report compiled by our correspondent.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo does have a unique approach to bearing his mind on thorny national issues. Again, he has replicated what he did about 4 years ago in December 2013 when he wrote an explosive 18-page open letter to the immediate past president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. This time, it is President Muhammadu Buhari who is at the receiving end of another highly charged 18-page epistle from Chief Obasanjo. In it, the former president details what he describes as the many failings of the Buhari administration and then suggests the way forward, albeit on a fresh alternative socio-political platform.
For our democracy to thrive and continue to be strong, we need strong party in government and strong party in opposition.
According to Chief Obasanjo, the situation that led to Nigerians massively voting out former President Jonathan out of office is playing out again. Although he gives President Buhari some credit in the fight against corruption and the Boko Haram insurgency, Chief Obasanjo insists it is not yet Uhuru. According to the former president, quote, the herdsmen crop farmers issue is being unwittingly or wittingly allowed to turn sour and messy. It's no credit to the federal government that the herdsman rampage continues with careless abandon and without finding an effective solution to it. And it's a sad symptom of insensitivity and callousness that some governors, a day after 73 victims were being buried in a mass grave in Benue State without condolence, were jubilantly endorsing President Buhari for a second term. The timing was most unfortunate. End of quote. Having said as much, Chief Obasanjo pulls no punches, lambasting the president for alleged nepotism and refusal to take responsibility. He further criticizes President Buhari for what he describes as a poor understanding of the dynamics of internal politics, which has resulted in an even more divided and insecure nation. The climax of former President Obasanjo's letter is his call on President Buhari not to seek re-election for a second term, saying he should not overpush his luck regarding the state of his health, the patience of Nigerians, and regardless of what his advisors tell him. He writes, quote, President Buhari needs a dignified and honorable dismount from the horse. He needs to have time to reflect, refurbish physically and recoup, and after appropriate rest, once again join the stock of Nigerian leaders whose experience, influence, wisdom, and outreach can be deployed on the sidelines for the good of the country. Nevertheless, President Obasanjo makes it clear that his criticism of the Buhari-led All Progressives Congress administration is not an endorsement of the opposition People's Democratic Party, as he points out, quote, if neither APC nor PDP is a worthy horse to ride to lead Nigeria at this critical time, then what do we do? Chief Obasanjo points the way out. And where to begin? This is Chief Obasanjo's advice. We need a coalition for Nigeria, CN. Such a movement at this juncture needs not to be a political party, but one to which all well-meaning Nigerians can belong. That movement must be a coalition for democracy, good governance, social and economic well-being, and progress. A coalition to salvage and redeem our country. You can count me with such a movement. End of quote. Chief Obasanjo has spoken his mind. But even as Nigerians digest the contents of a strongly worded letter to the president, they would also be eagerly keeping an eye open for a highly anticipated reaction from the presidency. Charles Eruka, the Channels Television News.
You have heard that report, and I'm sure that you've also been able to, go through the letter. Have you been able to completely digest all that has been written in the letter? It's quite a lengthy one.
Yes. Well, I have read it all, and we are still digesting. But you see, former President Obasanjo is a serial letter writer. I mean, it's probably part of his hobby to write letters. And unfortunately for him and people like him, in a democracy, you don't tell somebody don't contest for election. You don't do that. I mean, if Buhari wants to contest, let the people decide.
If he had written contest for elections, or I will support you for 2019, would you be protesting against that? Would you say you can't do that? After all, we've seen some governors who are saying, well, we support you for 2019.
Yeah, but
this is what we want. No one has said you can't do that.
It is their own right.
Yes.
It is all right also. But you don't tell people not to contest. You could tell somebody to contest. Because look, people go for elections and get defeated or they win. So why don't they allow Buhari, if he wants to contest?
In fairness to the content of the letter, sir, what former President Obasanjo wrote indeed was that that the President Buhari, has the right not to heed his advice. He did not dictate. He said, this is my advice, and you have the right not to heed it. So I wanted to clarify that.
Well, okay, let me tell you, I was in the National Assembly when the former leader of this country wanted to contest the third term, probably wanted to be life president of this country. And people tried to stop him. We actually stopped him. I personally, I have been the guinea pig of Obasanjo in this country because I am the only member of National Assembly from inception from 1914 to date that had gone through referendum to be recalled. I was the only person because of my stance against that term. So with somebody like him, who would want to, lead probably till eternity, and then coming to say, and look, the most unfortunate part of all this is, when he left politics some years back, when he said, look, I'm resigning from PDP, I'm not going to join any party, I'm going to be a leader of the country, and now all of a sudden, he is asking for a coalition. I mean, that's, what kind of coalition? Has he forgotten about the constitution of this country? So how will the coalition metamorphosize into, to lead the country?
Honorable member, since the inception of this administration, President Buhari has been very welcoming of the former president. He has spoken about him in very glowing terms and very reverential terms. Now, you have a situation where the former president, who, it's worth noting, anytime he has taken a position on an election from 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, the election has always gone the way that he has directed in many ways. He's always aligned with the right side of an election. Now, he has moved against the current president, and the current president is now quiet. The presidency is quiet. Are you saying that the former president lacks the credibility to be taken seriously on an issue as important as the 2019 election?
No, you see, he's entitled to his opinion, just like you and I, Nigerians, are entitled to their opinion as well. But whether to take him seriously or not, I think people of this country know who Obasanjo is. And I know for a fact that President Buhari respects Obasanjo seriously, sees him as his leader, his boss. They work together. And I'm sure up till now he still respects him. So it's his opinion. His opinion is he does not want Buhari to contest. Well, let the people decide.
Some people will say that there's very little to disagree with in this letter. And for the purposes of this conversation, some people will say perhaps we should make a distinction between the message and the messenger.
That is true.
So if we look at the content of the letter, where he says that President Buhari has performed far below expectations, that's the sentiment a lot of Nigerians carry. How does your party begin to go against or begin to say that is not true, considering all that has been happening, especially in the last few months?
Well, just like I said, Obasanjo and other people have their own have right to say their view, and we have been through that. We have been in opposition for 16 years, so I think people like Obasanjo who always wants to be on the other side. But look, in this country, for the last 2.5 years. Nobody in this country can dispute the fact that this government has turned about agriculture. This government has made millionaires from peasant farmers. unlike when Obasanjo was around, made some few people to be billionaires.
Is this a comparison of the Buhari administration versus the Obasanjo administration?
Well, that too.
Is that what you're doing?
No, what I'm saying, look, I don't work for the government, but what I'm saying, Obasanjo spent 8 years. There was nothing to show like in the agriculture field, compared to 2.5 years. And if you remember when this government came, so many crises in the country. And Buhari is not a magician. And I'm sure he didn't say I was coming to perform magic.
We've heard some members of the APC saying, well, yeah, he may be entitled to his opinion, but his opinion is one opinion, because as it is in a democracy, they expect the people to ultimately take that decision, so people should not be carried away with that letter. What's your impression about the letter?
I'm tempted to believe that those who have even said that believe very sincerely in what Obasanjo has written. There is hardly a single word, even comma, in that letter that is not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. No. When the APC was calling Jonathan's government clueless, little did we know that the APC government, if I may not be exaggerating, but is probably brainless. There is not a single form of economic or political indices that has improved since the APC came into government. The APC has taken, let me put it this way, if you say Jonathan's PDP was frying pan, then Buhari's APC is fire. I'm not sure if I can conclude anything better than that, because Nigerians in every aspect are actually swimming in fire. One single aspect of Obasanjo's letter that anybody who is logical, articulate, right-thinking can say that is not the absolute description. In fact, if I were to write the letter, I would have written it worst, because Obasanjo was very civil, very polite. In fact, he has helped to make APC look like a party, because all the country, across the country, nobody thinks and talks about APC, including members of the APC. For example,
but you know that the APC has maintained that it is getting Nigeria out of 16 years of rot perpetrated by the PDP. So some have argued that perhaps it's a little too early to judge. Do you think that the bombshell letter, or should I say the letter bomb, was a little too early?
Certainly not. It is, I've said here before that, look, when you change management, you expect the management to improve the company, not to say, oh, look, it was so bad, so I will make it worse. And I need more years to improve on it.
For 8 years, the General Dr. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was president of Nigeria. His chief of army staff did not cross southern Kaduna.
But it's not just of Ogun State.
No, wait, don't interject me. I didn't interject you. Let's be civil. His chief of army staff did not cross the southern Kaduna, meaning that people from the core north, for 8 years that General Chief Dr. Obasanjo was the president.
Let me understand what you mean. Are you talking about just the Chief of Army Staff, or is it a combination of the DG of SSS, the IGP of Police, the Minister of Defense, the DG of NIA, the NSA, CG Customs, Minister of Interior, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, CG Immigration? Does that comprise of all of those?
Then you didn't talk about Chief of Defense Staff. Do you know that?
Does it comprise of? I'm trying to understand what you said.
You know, you see, what I see you regurgitating here on national TV is the same thing that had been trending in social media.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm asking you pointed questions.
Yes.
I'm naming these positions because we know who occupied those positions now. Yes. And I'm asking you because you say his Chief of Army Staff didn't cross Katsina. So I'm asking, does it also mean that all these other offices didn't cross Katsina?
Chamberlain.
Is that what you're saying? I need to understand.
Chamberlain, if you understand the importance of the position of the Chief of Army Staff in the general security architecture of Nigeria, you will not be talking like that.
So you understand it?
Oh yeah.
And that's why
if you know the importance of the position of the Chief of Army Staff in Nigeria's security architecture as it has been since independence until now.
Let me make
so
myself clear. I'm not restricting myself to one position.
It's not just
I just highlighted all these positions. So help me understand it.
Let me explain to you. See, what I've been trying to lay, the background I've been trying to lay, the groundswell I've been trying to make available, do for you, is to make you understand the import, the purport, the portent, of security to a nation. It's not something that you leave to the whims and caprices of emotionalism.
You were talking about the Chief of Army Staff.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question about the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, the Chief of Air Staff, the DG of the NIA, the DG of the DSS, and all the other security apparatus. Yes. The Inspector General, please. He asked you a question you did not answer. Are you saying those ones did not cross the Katsina as well, within the 8 years of Chief Obasanjo's being in power?
No, I think, let me make myself a bit clearer. Let me make myself a bit clearer. What I'm saying to you is that it doesn't matter whether it's the CG of Customs or CG of Immigrations that you are trying to take out of it now. But I'm trying to say that, look, the person, like, we are trying to consider what Chief Obasanjo said and, as regards nepotism that they say. And I was trying to explain to you that, look, he, as a former chief of state, in Nigeria, when he was on the saddle for 8 years,
the Chief of Army Staff
did not make the Chief of Army Staff to cross.
But you still haven't answered the question, because Mr. Showme will come in here. Are you saying the other apparatus of the security system did not cross Katsina as well?
It's not that they did not cross.
Okay, you're more concerned about the Chief of Army Staff.
He was that particular, that he made issue. It was not coincidence.
Okay, Mr. Showme.
It was not coincidence.
Can you answer that question?
Please, you see, the Nigerian Defense Academy, I'm the son of a soldier. I went to the middle school. I went to Command Secondary School, Kaduna, up school. My dad and Demguari were soldiers. So the Nigerian Defense Academy does not have a recruiting ideology that only a certain section of the country can attend. The Nigerian Defense Academy recruits from all parts of Nigeria, and all of them are trained. And we do not have any battleground tested approval to say that one section of the country do well as military officers than any other section. Mine is that if the president makes unintended, I'm being kind. I could have said intended, but if he makes unintended recruiting errors, and those unintended recruiting errors begin to show, it is his responsibility and opportunity and that of his party to figure out how to correct it. But they can insist, if they like, that they are not parochial. I will leave the military and go to other areas that shows their parochialism. You cannot say that in this country, it is only people that are directly related to either your sister children, your in-laws, their children, that are so highly placed and so well endowed to be able to take some of the most strategic other responsibilities in the country. I would not bother listing those responsibilities, but I'm sure they themselves know what we're talking about. You see, Nigerians really want a situation where the best man would do the job. And there is a level of sectionalism that can be tolerated. But if it becomes brazen, if it gets to the point where everybody sees it, if it gets to the point where even their man, because I cannot call Obasanjo our man now, their man Obasanjo pens a letter towards it, they had to just say, we're sorry, we didn't realize while we were doing it, we will have an opportunity of a cabinet reshuffle, whatever we can do to rejig it and assuage the emotions of Nigerians so that we can. Is the president of only? But when he said, those who have given me 97% and those who have given me 5% cannot be expected to get the same level of patronage on an international platform and an international forum in the United States of America, the kinds of things that is now coming out is a reflection of exactly how he thinks. And when his closest allies justify it on national space, You then know that what has happened now is that they are all pushing themselves and trotting themselves on, as though Nigeria has become a nation where only one man can carry all the load in the country. You see, one of the things that make you know that our governance philosophy at the top level is warped are some of the things that are playing out. The NIA is supposed to be the Nigerian equivalent of an external intelligence service that goes up and down the world picking information and looking after Nigeria's interests from a security standpoint. One of the things that you will even do as a president, or I will do as a president, is to ensure that within the ranks, because it takes a lot of years to train them, and you cannot have someone that has been taken out of the place. There are other career officers there who have been developing themselves. We've trained them over the years. They've gotten the grip of it. Just because of your favoritism and nepotism again, you have gone backward over to give us an impression that you are bringing us the very best in the world, when in reality, evidences or allegations have been thrown on the table as to his way of coming after he failed the exam twice, he was removed. And look, we can bandy word all we like. It is still going to come down to one basic fact. APC, President Muhammadu Buhari, look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you are happy with what you have done in terms of the construct. And tell yourself that you couldn't have done it better. If they have a 4-year mandate, they can do as they wish to take. But we are pointing out these things. Lest another person come in charge of our country tomorrow, and it will come from the smallest town, say it comes from Igbo State, Enugu, and he will then sit in the presidency as an Enugu man, and suddenly now send this and begin to tell us that we have all forgotten that in this Nigeria, there are other tribes, and then you say the best you can find is from Enugu, the other one is the sister's child, the other one is his in-law. That's what we are trying to quarrel against. We're not depriving the president of the right to select who he wants to work with, but we are admonishing him that as an elder statesman who has had his hand on the plow for close to 40 years, because he's been around the corridor path for a while too, that you should know that this nation is being put together carefully. And we're just trying to become one independent nation. We're still trying to be one Nigeria. You cannot come here and be president today and be dividing us with your appointments. And when you do it, you had better be giving us the best, like you are giving us the Obamas of this world, which obviously is not what you are doing here.
All right, we'll go to break now, but we will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.